Mr. President, Secretary Clinton, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, peace processes are as exciting as watching paint dry for most of the time. It's long, it's difficult, it's tedious, it's detailed. And to have a President of the United States who doesn't just leave it to others, but followed it through in all those details was a quite remarkable business. But you'll be relieved to know I don't intend to take you through the business of the Good Friday Agreement. I just want to tell you one or two little stories. Irish people like stories. The first story is about when you came to the front of Belfast City Hall and Van Morrison was there with his saxophone and there were hundreds of thousands of people. And it happened that I was the Speaker in the Assembly, but my brother was the Lord Mayor of Belfast. And he rang me up and he said, "Come on down to the City Hall, the President is there, and there's a huge crowd of people." So I came down, and I was standing just behind you as you shook hands with people. Now, when there's hundreds of thousands of people, shaking hands is like this, you see? And suddenly you stopped, and there was a young person, and I heard you saying to them, "I shook hands with you earlier on today up at Queen's University." And I knew I was in the presence of one of the greatest political campaigners and communicators any of us have ever seen. After that, I went home, and we had an older lady, quite conservative from a very Protestant Unionist background, looking after our children. And I wonder what Marjorie's thinking. So slightly tentatively when I went in, I said, "Well, Marjorie, did you see that President Clinton's in town and he was speaking?" "Oh," she said, "yes, I did. He's the first president of America who ever realized that there were two sides to the conflict. I heard what he said about Derry, Londonderry. He understands us." And that was an extraordinary thing for someone from her background to say. What it showed was that President Clinton could not just appeal to hundreds of thousands of people, but he could get through to individual people in a way that would move them enormously. You know, in all the work on conflict in various parts of the world, there are three things I've discovered are always present. One is a community of people that have felt humiliated and disrespected. Secondly, a community of people, and often more than one, that feels treated deeply unfairly. And thirdly, a community of people for whom democracy hasn't worked. When President Clinton got involved in our process, he first of all treated everyone with respect. He reversed the humiliation that both sides at times felt. Always treated people with respect. Secondly, he treated everybody fairly. Nobody ever thought that he was treating them unfairly. They might have wanted him to be unfair in their favor, but they all knew he was treating everybody fairly. And when it came to democracy, there were those who had turned their back on democracy and used violence, and there were others who'd never really engaged. And when he broached the subject of bringing some of those people to the United States to learn about how democracy was a better way than the point of a gun, there were people in his own government and the Prime Minister of his ally in the United Kingdom who said, "Don't do it. Don't do it." But you did. You gave Gerry Adams a visa. We all came to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York, and it was another step along the way. And then, of course, Secretary Clinton was there with Vital Voices, a great movement of women that you inspired and led and encouraged. And then you came to Parliament buildings one day. I remember spending a couple of hours with you, and I began to realize how funny you were, how gracious, what a wonderful, warm personality you had. And you know, when Irish people think of the two of you, and I say this so that everybody here understands, they don't just respect you for what you did. They do, but they don't just respect you. They don't just appreciate you for the huge time and commitment and the risks that you took. They love you. Protestant, Catholic, dissenter, North, South, Unionist, Nationalist, non-aligned. They love you. And I don't need to persuade you of that, because you know from the warmth of the hugs that you get every time you come, and will always get every time you come to Ireland, north or south. But I say it so that the rest of the hugely distinguished galaxy of stars here realize what you always realized. It's not fundamentally about mechanisms and party politics and economic development and justice and policing and constitutional change. It's all of those things, but fundamentally, it's about healing disturbed historic relationships. And you, the two of you, are the masters of relationships. That's why we owe you so much and love you for it.